Narrator, calm, uneasy. Jogging. For most of us, it's the purest form of routine. You lace up your shoes, hit the pavement, and let the rhythm of your feet drown out the noise of the world. It feels healthy, ordinary, safe, or at least, it's supposed to be. But here's the truth most people don't think about. Jogging makes you vulnerable. You're outside, usually alone, focused on the run, your breathing, maybe a podcast or your favorite playlist. And while you're zoning out, your body predictable, your path repetitive, someone else could be watching. Sound. A twig snapping in the distance. Think about it. Your route rarely changes. Your timing is consistent. You may not even realize it, but you're announcing to the world, here I am. I'll be here tomorrow too. And sometimes, the wrong person notices. It's not about paranoia, it's about possibility. Because while most joggers just pass strangers with a polite nod, there are true stories where the strangers didn't just pass. They lingered. They followed. They waited. And those are the stories I want to share with you tonight. 3 terrifying, true accounts of ordinary jogs that turned into something much darker. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these kinds of real, spine-chilling stories, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It helps the channel grow, and it makes sure you never miss the next time we dive into something that might just keep you awake tonight. Because trust me, you'll want to hear what's coming. Sound. Footsteps start again, faster this time, fading into heavy breathing. In this video, you'll hear about a young woman who thought her morning trail was safe, until she realized someone had been keeping track of her every move. A night jogger who noticed a car following him, its headlights off, crawling closer with each block, and a group of friends who thought safety came in numbers, until they discovered something watching from an abandoned farmhouse. So get comfortable, maybe dim the lights, and the next time you tie your shoes for a run, remember these stories, because sometimes what's waiting on those quiet roads, dark trails, or even busy streets isn't just in your head. Sound. Silence. Then a single heartbeat. Faint. Narrator, low. Narrator, calm. Almost reflective. This story comes from a college student named Erin. She wasn't the type you'd picture as paranoid or dramatic. In fact, she was the opposite, responsible, steady, the kind of person who found comfort in routine, and nothing grounded her more than her morning runs. Every day, just after sunrise, she'd lace up her sneakers and head out to the trail near campus. It was beautiful, winding through the woods, quiet and serene. The kind of place you'd snap a picture of for Instagram with a caption like "Morning Peace." The same path, the same time, almost every single day. It was predictable. Safe. At least, it felt safe. In the beginning, those runs gave her exactly what she wanted: peace. But peace has a way of hiding things. And little by little, the details started stacking up. Sound. Can being crushed underfoot. She noticed crushed cans near the trail. Not the kind of energy drink cans she saw other joggers carrying, but beer cans. Cheap brands. The kind you don't sip while out for a casual stroll at 6 in the morning. She figured maybe teenagers were sneaking out here at night to drink. It was a college town, after all. But then she started noticing footprints. Large ones. Boots. Maybe. Pressed into the mud alongside the trail. And they weren't old. Sometimes they looked fresh. Too fresh. And then, the smell. Cigarettes. And sometimes, underneath it, a stronger scent. Like cologne. A cologne that lingered in the air long after she'd passed a certain bend in the path. At first, she brushed it all off. Trails are public, right? People walk them all the time. It wasn't hers. It wasn't special. But deep down, her body reacted before her brain did. That prickling feeling on the back of your neck. The kind that whispers, you're not alone. Sound. A faint twig snapping. Leaves rustling. One morning, halfway through her jog, she noticed something new. Something carved into the bark of a tree that made her stop in her tracks. Jagged letters. Sharp and uneven. See you. She stood there, breath puffing in the cold air, staring at the words, trying to convince herself it was just graffiti, just bored kids with a pocket knife. She even laughed nervously to herself, shook it off, and kept running. But the carvings didn't stop. The next week, another tree. Different spot. Different words. Run faster. Her chest tightened when she saw it. She jogged past, heart thumping, and told herself to ignore it. But that night, when she got home, she couldn't stop thinking about it. She finally told her roommate. Her roommate didn't laugh. She didn't think it was funny. She told Erin to stop jogging alone that early in the morning. But Erin shrugged it off, embarrassed. She didn't want to sound paranoid. Until the next time. Sound. Footsteps. A faint rustle, as if someone pacing nearby. She was halfway down the trail when something flickered in her peripheral vision. A shadow. A movement. She turned her head, but nothing was there. Still, she couldn't shake it. It felt like someone was pacing with her, keeping her stride, just far enough in the trees that she couldn't see them clearly. Her stomach dropped. She yanked her headphones out, every sound around her suddenly sharper. Her breath, the wind, her heartbeat pounding in her ears. She told herself it was nothing, just her imagination. But then it happened again. Another morning, another flicker at the edge of her vision. Always there. Always gone the second she turned to look. Sound. Breathing grows heavier. Heartbeat faint underneath. The final morning started like any other. Shoes tied, music in her ears, the sun filtering weakly through the trees. She kept one earbud out, just in case. And that's when she saw him. Sound. Silence. Then faint heartbeat begins. A man. Not hidden this time. Standing right in the middle of the trail, up ahead, as if he'd been waiting for her. He wasn't jogging. He wasn't walking a dog. He wasn't even pretending to do anything normal. He just stood there, staring. She froze. Her breath caught. The woods, suddenly, were unbearably quiet. And then, instinct took over. She spun around and ran, faster than she ever had before. Sound. Footsteps pounding against gravel. Breathing sharp, ragged. Her lungs burned. Her legs screamed. But she didn't dare look back. She couldn't. She tore out of the trail and onto the roadside, nearly collapsing as she flagged down a passing car. The driver, startled, pulled over. Erin yanked the door open and jumped inside without a second thought. Sound. Car door slamming shut. Erin's breath fast, panicked. Her chest heaved. Her hands shook. She told the driver what happened, begged them to take her to campus. And when police went back to investigate the trail, they found things Erin never expected. Sound. Rustle of a bag being opened. Cigarette butts. Beer cans. A length of rope. A knife tucked under a log. And worst of all, a scrap of paper. Folded. Damp from the soil. On it was a schedule. Her schedule. Days. Times. Routes. Exact details of her runs, scrawled in messy handwriting. She never ran that trail again. In fact, she never jogged alone again at all. And every now and then, even years later, she thinks about that morning. She thinks about the carvings in the trees, the shadow pacing in the woods, the way he stood there, waiting. And she wonders, if she hadn't seen him that day, if she hadn't run when she did, what exactly was he waiting for? Our second story comes from a man named Daniel. Unlike Erin, he wasn't a morning jogger. He preferred nights. After long days at work, he found peace in the quiet streets of his neighborhood. Streetlights glowing, the air cooler, fewer people around. To him, it was perfect. But nighttime brings its own dangers. One night, as he turned a corner, he noticed a car idling near the intersection. Its lights were off, but he could hear the faint hum of the engine. He jogged past it without much thought. Maybe someone waiting to pick somebody up. Maybe nothing at all. But the next night, it was there again. A different spot. Same car. Same quiet hum in the dark. He told himself it was coincidence. A neighbor. Maybe. Someone just sitting in their car. Until the third night. That was when the car didn't just sit there. It moved. At first, it was subtle. He'd hear the crunch of tires a block behind him. Then silence. Then the sound again. Closer. He switched streets. The car switched too. By the fifth block, the pattern was undeniable. The car was following him. Daniel tried to stay calm. His breath steady. His pace normal. But inside, Panic was crawling up his chest. The neighborhood he knew so well suddenly felt foreign. The glowing porch lights weren't comfort anymore. They were barriers. Locked doors. People asleep inside, oblivious. And then, the car made its move. Sound. Low engine rev. Slow tires rolling on asphalt. It pulled alongside him, matching his speed. The passenger window rolled down. Daniel's heart hammered. He turned his head just enough to see a face in the shadows. And then a whisper. Keep running. He froze mid-step. Every instinct screamed at him to bolt. He veered sharply into a stranger's driveway, sprinting up the path, pounding on the door with everything he had. The car screeched as it stopped, idled for a moment, then revved away, only to circle the block. The porch light flicked on. A confused homeowner opened the door in their robe, staring at Daniel like he was insane. Daniel begged them to let him inside, his voice cracking with panic. Thankfully, they did. From the window, he watched the car crawl past again. Slowly, headlights still off, moving like it was searching for him. Sound. Car engine humming, fading into distance. When police got involved later, Daniel learned something that made his skin crawl even more. His experience wasn't unique. Other residents, mostly women, had reported a suspicious vehicle in the area. Same make, same color, always late at night. But the driver? Never caught. Daniel never jogged at night again. In fact, he changed his entire routine. Because when someone whispers, "Keep running," it's hard not to wonder what happens if you stop. Narrator. This last story isn't about one jogger. It's about three friends who ran together every weekend in a quiet rural town. They weren't professional athletes, just people who liked the rhythm of running. It was their ritual Saturday mornings, sneakers on, music off, the three of them side by side on long empty roads. The route they loved most stretched past open fields and an abandoned farmhouse everyone in town avoided. Old, rotting, its windows boarded and its roof caving in. Most people crossed the street to keep distance from it. But for these three, it was just another landmark on their run. Running in a group gave them comfort. There was safety in numbers. At least, that's what they thought. The first strange thing began subtly. They'd passed the farmhouse, and in the upstairs window, where no one had lived for years, they sometimes saw a dim flicker of light. Just for a second. Like candlelight. At first, they brushed it off. Maybe kids sneaking in to mess around. Maybe headlights reflecting. But the more they ran, the more consistent it became. Some nights, there it was. A faint glow in the window. Always upstairs. Always moving, as though someone inside was walking with a candle in hand. Then came the whistling. Low, drawn out, coming from the fields beside them. It would start when they were about halfway down the road. A slow tune drifting on the wind. The kind of sound that instantly puts your nerves on edge, because it's not natural to hear out there. Not at dawn. Not in the middle of endless farmland. And here's the worst part. Whenever they stopped running, the whistling stopped too. Whenever they ran again, it picked up. One of them, Liam, swore he saw something crouching low in the grass once, moving in the same direction as them. Just a shadow at first, then the outline of someone crawling. He yelled for the others, but by the time they looked, the field was empty. The others laughed it off nervously, telling him it was probably an animal, or his imagination running wild. But Liam wasn't so sure. And then came the storm. It was a Saturday evening instead of morning, because the day had been hot, and they figured running in the rain would be refreshing. The sky was dark and heavy with thunder, and the wind cut through the trees. But they didn't care. They laced up their shoes and set out, telling each other it'd be a story to laugh about later, running through a summer storm like maniacs. The rain was coming down in sheets when they reached the stretch of road near the farmhouse. Visibility was bad, and they almost didn't notice at first. But when the lightning cracked across the sky, they saw it. A man, standing in the doorway of the farmhouse, perfectly still, watching them. Thunder rumbled, the rain hammered the dirt road, and for a moment they just froze. None of them spoke. None of them even breathed. Then, without a word, they bolted. All three of them, sneakers splashing against the wet road, lungs burning, hearts hammering. But almost immediately, they realized they weren't alone. Footsteps joined theirs. Heavy, pounding, too close. Whoever it was, they weren't just standing at the farmhouse anymore. They were right behind them. The sound grew louder, closer, until they could almost feel breath on their necks. Panic took over. The group split. Two of them veered back toward home. The third darted toward town. It was pure survival, scatter, and hope at least one of you makes it. Each of them ran with the sickening certainty that someone was right at their heels. They didn't dare look back. Every sound, every splash in the mud, every gust of wind sounded like the man reaching for them. And then, just as suddenly as it started, it was gone. The footsteps stopped. The presence faded. The storm swallowed everything in silence, except for their own gasps and pounding hearts. One by one, they made it back. Soaked, shaking, and terrified, but alive. They called the police. Officers went out to the farmhouse that same night. What they found inside was worse than anything the friends had imagined. There were sleeping bags spread out on the dusty floor, empty food wrappers, bottled water. Someone had been living there, and not just for a night. There were weeks' worth of trash piled up. And on the wall, spread across the decaying wood, were Polaroids. Dozens of them. Some old, some recent. All of joggers. Taken on that same stretch of road. People they knew. Some they didn't. All photographed from the fields, from the ditch, from the shadows. Watching. Waiting. The farmhouse was cleared out, but no one was ever caught. The police said maybe whoever it was had slipped out into the fields during the storm, blending with the chaos. Maybe they were long gone. But a week later, Liam came home from work and opened his mailbox. Inside, there was no envelope, just a scrap of paper. Scrawled in uneven handwriting were 5 words. See you on your next run. Jogging feels safe because it's ordinary. Routine. But these stories remind us that routine is exactly what danger looks for. Erin thought her morning trail was hers alone, a place to clear her head before the day began. She believed it was just her, the birds, and the crunch of gravel beneath her shoes. But the truth was darker. Someone else had been there, step for step, watching her every move, memorizing her schedule until one morning, she realized she wasn't alone. Daniel thought nighttime jogs were peaceful. The streets were quiet, the air was cool, and the only sound was the steady rhythm of his breathing. But then came the car. Silent at first. Slow. Too slow. Its headlights flickering behind him, always keeping pace. At first, he told himself it was nothing, until he realized the car wasn't going anywhere except where he went. And then, there were the 3 friends. Running together should have meant safety, laughter, motivation. But sometimes, even a group isn't enough. Because what if someone is already waiting for you? What if the danger is ahead, not behind? They thought they'd be fine together, but that night proved otherwise. Sound. Slow footsteps fading into silence. The truth is, routine makes us predictable. And predictability makes us vulnerable. Joggers, runners, anyone who repeats the same path, the same time, the same pattern, you're leaving a trail that anyone watching can follow. Maybe it's harmless. Maybe it's someone who notices but does nothing. But sometimes, it's someone who notices and waits. Think about it. The next time you lace up your shoes and step outside, who else knows your route? Who else has been paying attention? We rarely think about it because it feels safe. But the scariest part is how easy it is to track someone who doesn't realize they're being watched. You're distracted. Maybe you've got music blasting in your headphones. Maybe you're focused on your breathing. Maybe you're just lost in thought, chasing the runner's high. But out there, you're vulnerable. Because while you're focused inward, someone else could be focused on you. And when you hear a twig snap behind you, will you turn around? Or will you tell yourself it was nothing? When you notice a car creeping just a little too slowly behind you, will you quicken your pace? Or convince yourself you're imagining it? When you catch a glimpse of a shadow just outside the streetlight's glow, will you keep running, hoping it stays behind? Or will you realize, too late, that it's been there all along? These aren't just stories meant to frighten you. They're warnings. Because every one of these runners thought they were safe, until they weren't. So as you finish this video, and maybe even as you head out for your own run later, remember these voices. Aaron, Daniel, the three friends. Their ordinary jogs turned into something unforgettable, for all the wrong reasons. Sound, distant, fading breathing. Jogging is healthy. It's freeing, but it's also exposure. Exposure to the world, exposure to the unknown, exposure to whoever might be paying attention. And sometimes, it isn't just in your head. Sometimes, the footsteps behind you are real. Stay safe out there. Run smart. Switch your routes. Stay alert. And never ignore that uneasy feeling, because too often, that's the very signal that something's wrong. And if you want more stories like these, true accounts of ordinary moments turned terrifying, make sure you hit subscribe before you go, because the next one we share might be even closer to home.